Hello, my name is Karl Schultz, and I'm going to share with you a couple of minutes the importance of Bible study, or what is known in the vernacular of Bible scholars as exegesis, which means interpretation out, drawing out what is in the Bible, exploring what is the literal or historical meaning of the text. The complement to that is eisegesis, reading into the text, bringing yourselves in. Both are legitimate, but we don't want to confuse them. Exegesis is the starting point. We have to start with the literal. The reason that I'm discussing this separately is because there's a tendency today to, especially with the proliferation of lectio divina, to think that we can dispense with study. We don't really need to know the background. Well, it really depends on each person. Some people are just not capable or not inclined to get into any kind of real serious study. Everybody has different capacities. God gives us all different gifts. Each person needs to come to terms with their capacity and their access to commentaries, Bible dictionaries, resources that enable you to go deeper into the Bible. It is important to study the Bible, because if we do lectio divina and we do it based on a false or incorrect interpretation of the literal meaning of the text, we're kind of starting off on the wrong foot. And because the Holy Spirit's guiding us, He can kind of bring us back on. And usually we're not going to be too far off. But knowing the background of the text always helps bring it to life. It humanizes it. It gives us a setting or a context. So what I highly encourage people to do is to consider what level of study is appropriate for you. There's many tools. There's, for example, a synopsis, in which it has the synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, in parallel columns, so that you can see how the same story is told in different ways, and those differences can illustrate what each evangelist is trying to bring out to his particular community. In fact, there's a technical term for that: redaction criticism or editorial criticism. What is the evangelist trying to communicate based on his recounting of an event in the life of Jesus? He's presenting it so his people can understand and applying it to today. So I highly encourage you to consider the value of reading. And if you get in touch with me, I can recommend many commentaries. In the post-conciliar time and immediately before the council, there was a flourishing of biblical scholarship within the church because of a 1943 encyclical Divina Spiritu Afflante by Pope Pius XII during World War II, which basically gave the green light to Catholic biblical scholars to really get into the depths of the Bible, which before they were a little hesitant on because of modernist abuses. So that's something that's very important, is to consider the historical context. And since Vatican II and prior, we have great scholars, and if you get in touch with me, I'll be able to recommend some. The advantage is that books published prior to the last decade, before the social media era, tend to be more substantive, more depth. They're not apologetic, they're not telling stories, they're not dumbing down, they're not oversimplifying. Many of the books nowadays are written in a much simpler language. Some people prefer that. It's more appropriate to some people. But if you are someone who wants something more, if you want to dive deeper, if you want to challenge yourself, if you want to bring out the whole depths of the text, it's important to get help. I always use commentaries. And when we do lectio divina, we don't need a commentary at hand, but it's helpful as a background. So study and prayer go together. That's a teaching of the church. It's very important. And lectio divina is enriched by study. It's not the same, but they're complementary. So if you are interested in this, do please contact me. My phone number is 386-323-3808. My email address is Karl A. Schultz at juno.com, and my websites are karlaschultz.com and karlpresents.com. That's Karl with a K, and Schultz, S-C-H-U-L-T-Z, middle initial A. The popes have consistently encouraged Bible study, and I will be glad to share with you some of the leading biblical scholars who also are very accessible. So They don't use jargon unnecessarily. They explain things, and they help us learn and go deeper and see how it applies to our life. They don't stay at the historical, literal. They help it bring it to contemporary life and personalize it and humanize it. Thank you very much for your attentiveness, and I look forward to dialoguing with you and sharing more of this at a later time. Peace be with you. Shalom.